Hello, hello, hello. It is Monday. Today we're going to be talking about world building because Monday is fun day. And on Monday Fun Day, I get to talk about whatever the frick I want to talk about. And basically, it's all been world building day after day, week after week. What is being drawn is not from the world building I'm talking about. It is from my other novel slash webtoon, The Books of Avo, which is available on Etsy. Very cool. Highly recommend it. It's getting a webtoon version, but it'll take forever for that to actually happen. And in the meantime, you could maybe check out the novel version. There's beautiful hand-done watercolor there's some beautiful hand-done watercolor illustrations in there, and I absolutely love it. And I would love it if you check it out. It's very gay. Dragon rider kissing 1920s. Fantasy. Yeah, that those are my keywords for you. So today we're going to talk about Crow Story. Crow Story is a story about elves. It's a land full of elves, and there's 12 elements, and there are furries, and there's mages and stuff. I'll get into every little nitty gritty thingy majiggy that is necessary, but if you want the full story, if you want all the lore, you can check out my playlist that has everything you could possibly want to know about Crow Story, except what the plot is, because we are in pre-production, baby. Okay. Sorry, I'm recording these back to back, so hopefully I do explain what's going on, but so today we are going to talk about Cel Storm, and then we might talk about something else, because I'm looking at Cel Storm right now, and there is not much going on. Not much at all. So Cel Storm is a dry land full of forests. It was once home to the Centaur. I say the Centaur, but it was once home to Centaur, and they were gotten rid of during the Centaur Wars. What a way to put it. It has some lush regions to the north of the river, and they are predominantly Sylvan being one of the elements. And the way that the elements work is basically there are mages that look like elves, and then there are furries. And you either look like a mage or you look like a furry, and there's like a spectrum for each element between like a certain set of mage powers and a certain animal. So Sylvan, they have nature powers, or they look like foxes, and then there's like a little slidey scale that goes in between them. In the northern region of Cel Storm, there are some lush heckin' forests going on where a bunch of Sylvan elves live. They used to have like a unique fawn appearance, but over time that's really gone away, especially with like the introduction of the Lindworm Kingdom, the Divine Kingdom. They showed up, and with social pressures, it's not really seen as a good thing to look like an animal within the Lindworm Kingdom. So over time, with like the immigration of mages and the exposure to aether, the exposure to like aether crystals that are used in like the worship of the Lindworm, it's affected what the fawns of Cel Storm look like. And the reason that can happen is because whether or not you are a mage is not really like a blood thing. You don't inherit it. It is based on environmental factors during your early childhood / when you are in the womb. And so nowadays the fawns of Cel Storm are actually just considered common elves, and they look a little bit animalistic, but not much at all. They might have the little fluffy ears, and if they have a tail, they don't have it long. If they're born with a tail, it's usually docked in early childhood, because that is just kind of the social pressure that exists within the Lindworm Kingdom. Everyone in Cel Storm is down with the Lindworm, and they worship and they do the Lindworm orthodoxy thing, which I have talked about before. But yeah, they practice, they go to Lindworm church, they praise the snake, it's all good. Okay, if we learn anything, it's not all good with the Lindworm, but like for these folks, it's pretty good. The reason that most in Cel Storm were really down with the Lindworm was because during the conflicts with the Centaurs, the Sylvan Fawn that originally lived there, they were having a really bad time with the Centaurs that lived there. Like, before the Divine Kingdom showed up and, like, decimated many populations, this particular group of Centaurs and this particular group of Fawns, they weren't getting along. So they all lived along this river in this lush area, and the Centaur would go to the river, but they'd also live in the large dry lands. Their horses, they got a run. They got lots of space. And the Centaur were super big, super strong, muscle, swole, horse leg, kick, and they were really mean to the Sylvan Fawns, because they kind of believed that they were like spiritually connected to wolves, and they kind of thought they were like demonic creatures. And before I say anything else about the Centaur, I will probably talk about Centaur more. However, Centaur is like a population defined by having like a torso of an elf and then like the horse torso. Then you know what centaurs are. I don't know why I'm explaining centaurs, but like it's like a descriptor of like what they look like. There is such a wide range where the centaurs used to live. Like, they used to populate just as much area as the Divine Kingdom does now, and they were not unified in any sense. They were all sorts of little different groups of people. They had their own things going on, and a lot of those little groups, those religions, those cultures, they were like completely destroyed and gone now. And yeah, so everything is always kind of nuanced. And I say this because when you hear about other centaurs, know that not all centaurs are like this, and not all believe that fawns are demonic creatures. In this particular area, the centaur, they thought they were demonic, and so they hunted them and they killed them and did rituals to kind of cleanse their souls. Not all centaurs do this. Very few, in fact. And doing this was believed to just keep centaur towns like safe, and it would keep away wolves and other like big scary predators and stuff, and protect the baby centaurs, and it was all good for the centaurs, except it wasn't. I guess. So the fawns like retreated into like the wooded areas, but over time the centaur like population, it grew and they expanded outward, and they began like clearing the woods and hunting down more fawns. Centaurs are big, they're scary, they're very strong. I wouldn't want to fight a centaur. So all of this is to say, when the Divine Kingdom reached Cel Storm, the fawns, they thought they were hecking saviors. Like, they loved them so much for like getting rid of the centaurs. They were able to do this. They were able to get rid of the centaur because they had like a lot of like nature spells, and they had sylvan magic on their side. So like the fawns were sylvan, but because they are fawns, because they're animal-like, they don't have the magic needed. Basically, one of like the main ways that the Divine Kingdom was able to like decimate the centaur was that they would have spells that would like attack their hooves, basically, and their ability to walk and get around. If you know horses and stuff, like, it's just really not good to not be able to use your legs. We've talked about this thing called the Plague of Lilies before, which was like a magical illness spell that was created to attack divine elves, but it ended up spreading way too far and killing lots of people. Basically, they kind of avoided this from ever really happening in the Centaur War, because even if it did spread into like affecting other Hearth elves, it's like easier as like a two-legged, light, not heavy super big horse person to live on like some really bad hooves for a while and then recover, or at least be able to reach help. Because if you're a horse and you're downed and you need to go somewhere to get help, like that's not happening. And if it is happening, it's going to be like a lot of work. And because it was like spreading to like all of the centaurs, it was just a bad time. And the Divine Kingdom did really good to do bad. That's like the Divine Kingdom in a nutshell, I guess. Is like they do really good at doing bad. So yeah, the Divine Kingdom shows up. The elves of Cel Storm are like, thank the worm. I love the worm. Thank you for saving us. And they were really willing to convert and move away from like their beliefs and just kind of embrace the Lindworm a lot more readily than places that are just kind of like through brute force taken over. Yeah, in Cel Storm, it was taken over and lords showed up and they took control over the fawn populations. And they built the temples in honor of the Lindworm, and they were really kind of like eager to do this. A lot of them, most of them, and many really just wanted to thank the Lindworm for like helping them. In all of that, magic was then kind of brought to the land of Cel Storm. A lot of like language differences and customs like slowly have like become less and less apparent within these fawn populations. And like I said, they're not even really fawns anymore. They've just been so exposed to magic and aether that they just appear as elves, even though they descend from the same people. And yeah, so Cel Storm is just, it's a population of very devout people, very devout converts. Though at this point, most of them aren't converts because it's been so long and generations have happened. So yeah, they're just a very devout land, and they're very resentful of the fawn populations up north that didn't come down and thank the Divine Kingdom for what they did. Like, they don't understand why them fawns up north can't just embrace the worm. In Cel Storm, there's also like just a lot more sylvan elves in the population than in other provinces, especially more southern. In the southern regions, it tends to be a lot more hearth elves, so more like horsey elves. But because of the way that like Cel Storm came to be, a lot of sylvan elves like followed their lords into new lands. Yeah, it's very sylvan in population. That's like the unique feature of Cel Storm. Yeah, basically they followed their lords to like heck up more centaurs, and probably centaurs that have like nothing to do with what those other centaurs were doing to the people of Cel Storm. So like, you know, live long enough to see yourself become the villain kind of thing. And yeah, it's really close to like Lastia, which we talked about before. It's so sylvan and it's so dry, and like Lastia alone didn't really experience the Plague of Lilies, so like Cel Storm has like nothing, has no really wasn't affected at all by that. I guess most of them past Cel Storm, past Lastia, aren't really affected. Yeah, it's very, very dry. It's very, very hot. It's got like savanna through a lot of it, as well as like the dry tropical forests going on in like the northern tropical area where like the fawns originally came from. It was a lot more mild, but still very, very hot. In like the hottest area is like 36 degrees Celsius on average. And at night, it's like 27 degrees Celsius. Yeah, it's just a bad time for me. I personally would never want to live there. In its most temperate region, like, I think it's okay-ish. It cools down a lot in the winter up there. But yeah, not my kind of place. I'll be real with you guys. I think I'm just gonna cut this short just because like nothing really flows into Cel Storm all that good. Yeah, it's kind of its own thing. I hope you enjoyed learning about it. Yeah, thank you so much for listening to me yammer on. Thank you, as always, for your lovely, lovely, lovely comments. I'll talk to you next time.